Just when you thought you've seen the last Concept Z video, it pops up once again to do battle yet again with another Shimano. Now, in case you're new to this channel, the Concept Z has went up against the mighty CURADO K 2 times, and both times it lost. So maybe going up against the CURADO K was asking a little too much of the Concept Z. So I guess it was time to put it up against something that's more its own speed. And that, of course, is the $52 Shimano Bass Rise. Now, this is available only in Japan, but I found it on Amazon for $52 shipped. So you're probably wondering why I'm putting a $52 Shimano up against a $200 Concept Z. And of course the answer is that they are somewhat direct competitors. Now what I mean by that is both of these reels do not use ball bearings. They use bushings. Now in the case of the Bass Rise, Shimano uses bushings as a cost-cutting, money-saving measure to keep the cost of this reel low and affordable. Now with 13 Fishing, they are claiming that their bushings are a revolutionary space-age polymer that's going to actually give you longer casts, be quieter, and of course is going to not corrode in salt water. So yeah, I thought it would be logical to put these reels up against each other in a cast battle. Not only are they going up against each other, their bushings are going up against each other. So it's going to be a bushing versus bushing battle, pretty much. Now I'm going to weigh these spools, but before I do that, I want to show you guys something. Now it's been noted that the free spool time on the Concept Z is not very impressive. Now I have the brake set to 0 and the spool tension really loose, so let's see if we can see how long this spins. I count about 4 seconds. So let's see how the Bass Rise spins. And I have the brakes turned all the way off and the spool tension's pretty loose. Okay, I count about 8 seconds. So it's about average time for a baitcaster with the Bass Rise. And of course, this is below average in free spool times. Now, of course, we know free spool times mean nothing in casting, but I just wanted to show you guys. So let's pop those spools out. Okay, so I pulled the spools out and I got my scale out. And what I've also done is I've taken the bushings off the spools so I can get an accurate weight on them. So the Bass Rise spool weighs in at, wow, 13.9, so basically 14 grams. That's really light. Now the Concept Z spool weighs in at 15.6 grams. So you're looking at a over 1.5 gram difference in spool weight. Now you can also see as well the much bigger size of the Bass Rise spool. It's a 34 millimeter diameter, while the Concept Z is 32 millimeters. Okay, so this is without the bushings. Now I think the line capacity is about the same for both, but let's take a good look at these bushings. If the camera can focus. So the blue one is the Bass Rise bushing, and the orange one, or whatever color that is the Concept Z bushing. So I'm touching and feeling these bushings, right? Trying to feel how hard and slick they are, because these bushings, they don't rotate like the ball bearings do. They don't have a inner race that rotates the balls. But just touching them in hand, I can tell you that the material of the Czb bushing is slicker. It's a lot easier to glide my finger across. So it's definitely a different material than this Shimano bushing. As you can see, this is just a cheap bushing, cool color, but it is cheap. So basically, these spools are spinning inside these holes, and these bushings stay still inside the reel during the cast. So there we go. I'm gonna take them out on the field tomorrow, and well, now that I run my finger over the fingernails over the bass fries bushings, they are pretty slick. I don't know who's gonna win. I know you also have a difference in braking. You have this basic easy magnetic brake system from Shimano that's fairly adjustable. I think it's got about 10 adjustments. And then of course you have the ancient 6-pin system of the Concept Z. So that should play a factor as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them out tomorrow on the field, and we're going to see what's what. Okay, first up we have the Concept Z. I have spool tension set to when the lure hits the ground. There's a couple of coils there. And the internal brake is set to 1. So let's go. .160 feet 5 inches. .148 feet 6 inches. .148 feet 10 inches. .159 feet 10 inches. .156 feet 8 inches. Okay, I have the Shimano bass fries. I got the spool tension set to just minimize the side-to-side play, and the external dial is on just halfway over the middle, and the 1/4 ounce casting plug. Here we go. .150 feet 5 inches. .149 feet 7 inches. .147 feet 6 inches. .152 feet 3 inches. Okay, so I'm back from the casting field, and let's talk about what happened out there. Now, the first thing you probably noticed was that it was really windy, and I did my best to try to wait until the wind died down before I casted each time. So these results are, of course, going to be a little bit wind aided. So let's get to the results. Now, coming in second place is the Bass Rise with a really respectable 150.2 foot average. And that's kind of a shocker, yet it's kind of not a shocker. It's a shocker because this is a $52 reel, but it's not a shocker in the fact that it's got a really light spool at about 14 grams, I would say. Now, of course, that leaves the Concept Z at 155 feet even. So congratulations to the Concept Z. It finally gets a victory over Shimano. So slow clap right there. Now granted, it's a $52 Shimano, but a victory is a victory. So let's go over some notes. Now, everyone is talking about the buzzing and vibrating noise coming from the Concept Z. Now I was experiencing that a little bit during the cast in the last battle, but today I experienced it even worse, and it was happening throughout the whole cast. So basically, if you listen closely with the Concept Z cast, you'll hear it. It was that loud, and it was actually, you could feel a vibration in the spool. Now granted, I did set the spool tension a little bit looser than what is recommended by the 13 Fishing Internet Troll Squad, and that helped with the distance, but I have a theory about that, which I'll explain to you guys here in a second. Now, with the Bass Rise. Now, this thing also made some noise as well during the cast, which is kind of strange because it was whisper quiet out on the water. And let me get to my theory. So in the brief on the water impressions for both reels, they were actually really quiet. And I think the reason why they were quiet during the on the water impressions and noisy during the field test is because there is a little bit of a gap or play with the bushings in relation to the spool shaft, and I'm going to show you guys what I mean. Okay, so basically with these bushings, they are stationary during the cast, so the spool is just basically spinning on its own inside the hole. So there is a little bit of play there. Hopefully this camera will focus. But yeah, there we go. So if there's a little bit of wiggle there, so that means there's a little bit of a gap in between the bushing and the spool shaft, which is to be expected. And it's same with the Bass Rise. Now with the Bass Rise, the wiggle or the tolerance is not as tight as the Concept Z. There's a significantly bigger gap in between the bushing and the spool shaft versus the Z. But my theory is that if you set a loose spool tension or a looser spool tension with these reels, and the fact that we are casting a 1/4 ounce plug that flies really far, your spool speed is reaching really high RPMs and for a longer amount of time as well. So the cast is longer and the spools are spinning faster than they would with a regular lure out on the water fishing. So it's vibrating or making noise. You can feel the spool vibrating up against these bushings. And it was more pronounced in the Z because I think the bushing is a harder material than with the Bass Rise. So that's my theory, and the reason I came up with that theory is after the field test I actually went fishing, and I actually tied a jerkbait on to the Concept Z, and it was so windy that I tightened up the spool tension and I went up on the brakes, and that vibration and noise went away. Now granted, the casts were really short compared to on the field, but the vibration went away nonetheless. So there we go. Now I know it wasn't the most scientific test because the different braking systems and the different spools, dimensions, etc. But as it stands, the Concept Z bushings seems to best the Shimano bushings as far as casting distance. Alright guys, thanks a lot.